Well, good morning. I'm Clarke Englund. I'm the Sunday school teacher of the adult Bible class at New Braunfels Bible Church. And we've been walking through the book of Isaiah and studying what Isaiah has revealed to us about God's provision to Israel, to draw them back to him, and how through the Messiah, the sins of Israel and the world would be forgiven. We're in a section specifically focused on revealing God's servant, his Messiah. Last week in the second half of chapter 49, Israel says to God, "You forgot me. You don't love me." And God responded that he could not forget Israel, just like a nursing mother could never forget her child, and that he loves them unconditionally. And so let's read Isaiah 50. We're going to go from 50 verse 4 through 51 verse 16. And so reading out of the New Living Translation, it says, "The sovereign Lord has given me his words of wisdom so that I know how to comfort the weary. Morning by morning, he wakens me and opens my understanding to his will. The sovereign Lord has spoken to me and I have listened. I have not rebelled or turned away. I offered my back to those who beat me and my cheeks to those who pulled out my beard. I did not hide my face from mockery and spitting. Because the sovereign Lord helps me, I will not be disgraced. Therefore, I have set my face like a stone, determined to do his will. And I know that I will not be put to shame. He who gives me justice is near. Who will dare to bring charges against me now? Where are my accusers? Let them appear. See, the sovereign Lord is on my side. Who will declare me guilty? All my enemies will be destroyed, like old clothes that have been eaten by moths. Who among you fears the Lord and obeys his servant? If you are walking in the darkness without a ray of light, trust in the Lord and rely on God. But watch out, you who live in your own light, and warm yourselves by your own fires. This is the reward you will receive from me. You will soon fall down in great torment. Listen to me, all you who hope for deliverance, all who seek the Lord. Consider the rock from which you were cut, the quarry from which you were mined. Yes, think about Abraham, your ancestor, and Sarah, who gave birth to your nation. Abraham was only one man when I called him, but when I blessed him, he became a great nation. The Lord will comfort Israel again and will have pity on her ruins. Her desert will blossom like Eden, her barren wilderness like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness will be found there. Songs of thanksgiving will fill the air. Listen to me, my people. Hear me, Israel, for my law will be proclaimed and my justice will become a light to the nations. My mercy and justice are coming soon. My salvation is on the way. My strong arm will bring justice to the nations. All distant lands will look to me and wait in hope for my powerful arm. Look up at the skies to the above and gaze down on the earth below, for the skies will disappear like smoke and earth will wear out like a piece of clothing. The people of the earth will die like flies, but my salvation lasts forever. My righteous rule will never end. Listen to me, you who know right from wrong, you who cherish my law in your hearts. Do not be afraid of people's scorn, nor fear their insults. For the moth will devour them as it devours clothing. The worm will eat at them as it eats wood, as it eats wool. But my righteousness will last forever. My salvation will continue from generation to generation. Wake up, O Lord, clothe yourself with strength. Flex your mighty right arm. Rouse yourself in the days of old, when you slew Egypt, the dragon of the Nile. Are you not the same today, the one who dried up the sea, making a path of escape through the depths so your people could cross over? Those who have been ransomed by the Lord will return. They will enter Jerusalem singing, crowned with everlasting joy. Sorrow and mourning will disappear, and they will be filled with joy and gladness. Yes, I am the one who comforts you. So why are you afraid of mere humans, who wither like the grass and disappear? Yet you have forgotten the Lord your Creator, the one who stretched out the sky like a canopy and laid the foundations of the earth. Will you remain in constant dread of human oppressors? Will you continue to fear the anger of your enemies? Where is their fury and anger now? It is gone. Soon all your captives will be released. Imprisonment, starvation, and death will not be your fate. For I am the Lord your God, who stirs up the sea, causing its waves to roar. My name is the Lord of heaven's armies, and I have put my words in your mouth and hidden you safely in my hand. I stretched out the sky like a canopy and laid the foundations of the earth. I am the one who says to Israel, you are my people. And so we'll go in and share the screen again. So who is speaking in these sections? Well, in the first section, we see the servant, the Messiah, is speaking. And the next section from verse 10 through chapter 51, verse 8, God is speaking. He is commenting on the ministry of the Messiah. The Messiah speaks in verses 4 to 9 and talks about what he's supposed to do. And God responds and confirms that and comments on that. Well, in 9 through 11, we get a question. The faithful are questioning God, and God is responding to them in that next section. And so what is the message of the servant in verses 4 to 9? And so we see, he says, I give myself willingly. I have suffered greatly, and I have listened to my sovereign God. God will protect me. God is on my side. My enemies will be destroyed. And so he's looking ahead, and he understands all that's going to happen. And he's talking about how willing he is to come and do these things and all the suffering that's involved, from the plucking out of the beard and the beatings that he's going to take. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be easy. But he is willing to do that because he's focused and centered on the sovereign God. And so verse 5 in the New Living says, the sovereign Lord has spoken to me, and I have listened. I have not rebelled or turned away. I think it's missing something. Let me read to you the King James Version there. It says, the Lord has opened my ear, and I was not rebellious, nor did I turn away. And so what we see is, let me read a couple more verses here for us to try to set the stage a little bit better. So Exodus 21, 5 to 6 says, but if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the doorpost. And his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. And Psalm 40, verse 6 says, sacrifice and offering you did not desire. My ears you have opened. Burnt offering and sin offering you did not require. And Philippians 2:7 says, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant and coming in the likeness of men. So what we see in these verses is the New Living Translation focuses on the listening part of the job of the year. Not surprising. But Exodus describes the ceremony where a person could become the bondservant of his master. And the master would take an awl and pierce his ear as a symbol that this was a forever arrangement, and the bondservant loved his master, the master loved his servant. And they both were willing to bond each other together for life. And here in Isaiah, we see the servant's ear is opened, which was prophesied in Psalm chapter 40, verse 6, about how he would have his ears opened. And that is exactly what they're talking about, is that ceremony of the ear being pierced. And in Philippians, it confirms that Jesus became a bondservant for us. And so the servant, the Messiah, would be God's bondservant, obeying him and loving him and trusting him for all things. And so I think the New Living Translation misses out a tiny bit, but you get the picture as you study through this. Well, what's the message of God in the next section, verses 10 and 11? He says, if you're in the dark, you should listen, you should obey, you should trust, and then you will be in my light. If you trust me when you're in the dark, I will take care of you and provide for you. But if you reject my servant, and make your own light, you will be greatly tormented. And so God is offering them the chance of redemption. He's promising to take care of them. But if you reject God and go off on your own, you will be tormented. And some would say, well, is that permanent? Is that temporary? I tend to believe these are people that will reject God permanently, and God will torment them in hell for eternity's sake. That's just my take on it. You can take it and study and decide for yourself. And then he's talking in verses 51, 1 through 8. He's talking to the righteous. He's talking to those who seek righteousness and seek deliverance from the Lord. And his message to them in this section is kind of threefold. In verses 1 to 3, it's, listen. Listen, you righteous. And he says to them, remember Abraham. Abraham was alone, but with God, he became a great nation. I didn't forget Israel. I've never forgotten Israel. I bless her, and she will bloom like the Garden of Eden did. And then he goes in verses 4 to 6, and it's, listen, my people. My law, my justice is a light to all people. My mercy and salvation is coming. And salvation and righteousness will rule, and it will last forever. And it's offered to all. And then in verses 7 and 8, he says, listen, fear from the wrong. Fear God and not man. Salvation and righteousness, again, last forever. Those, and he's saying, listen, those who know right from wrong in these couple verses, because you should fear God, not man. Don't be afraid of a man who is a mere mortal who can't do anything to you. And so this section, we finish at 3 listens, if you will. Listen to me. And the next section, starting in verse 9, begins 3 awakes. And we'll only go through the first one today. And the first is the faithful tell God to awake. And the faithful are talking to God. God, awake. And what do they want? Why are they telling God to awake? Well, they want God to act. They want God to act with power, just as he did in the old days when the children were in Egypt and he brought them out. And verse 9 reminds them, hey, remember when we were down in Egypt, you brought us out and you slew the dragon Egypt and the Nile dragon. If you remember from chapter 27, way back, New King James called it Rahab and the serpent, or Leviathan, the chaos monster, and Satan. And that's the same kind of picture here. God, you acted in times past, and yet we feel like you've deserted us. You brought us home from Egypt. You can bring us, and you brought us into Zion, singing with joy. And you did all that before. Why are you waiting to do anything for us again? This time, what's taking so long for you to act? And we see God's answer to them in verses 12 to 16. He says, why are you afraid of men? Men die. You've forgotten who I am. I am the creator. I am the Lord of the universe. I am the creator, the Lord of the earth and sky, and I can stretch the canopy out. I have given you my word. I have given you my world. And when we see he's given us his word, we immediately think of John 1:1, referencing Jesus as, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. And so we get that same perception, same feeling. And he says, I have you safely in my hand. You are my people. I love you and I will protect you. So God is, wait, we saw that last week where, why are you waiting, God? So we go then to the lessons, for today. Well, we see that the Messiah will suffer, but he is an obedient, trusting servant. God has not forgotten his people, regardless that they think he's forgotten him. And his salvation and righteousness will last forever. We draw strength from God. The servant drew strength. from God. And so we should draw strength from God. Whether we are in or out of persecution, we should be strengthened by God and relying on him. And so we see in the last part there that we often ask why. You know, in this case, the righteous were asking, why are you waiting? You know, and we ourselves ask God, why did this happen? Why are you doing this? And God says, trust me, I have it. I hear your anxiety, but focus on me for peace. And when we do focus on him for peace, the anxiety goes away. Our trust in him grows, and he deals with the situations and protects us day in and day out. You know, and so that's the lesson for us. That's not an easy lesson to do. It never is. Waiting and listening are never easy. But trusting God shouldn't be hard because he has never failed us. And so when God says, trust me, I have it. I hear your anxiety, but focus on me and you will have peace. So thanks for being a part of our series in Isaiah. Please join us next week at 8:30 and have a great day.